Welcome to A Basic Introduction to Mechanical Ventilation. This is Chapter 2.12, Other Modes of Ventilation. In addition to the other modes of ventilation that we've discussed, there are two modes that don't quite fit into those molds. The first is SIMV, also known as Synchronized Intermittent Mandatory Ventilation. This is essentially a volume control mode with a different breath sequence. Recall from a previous talk that the breath sequence can either be a continuous mandatory ventilation, which is what we usually do, or a continuous spontaneous ventilation, which is commonly used in pressure support ventilation. The in-between is called intermittent mandatory ventilation. Essentially, a regular volume control ventilation mode is set, and between these controlled breaths, the patient can take their own spontaneous breaths. Usually, the ventilator will also provide some pressure support breath for each of these spontaneous breaths. This mode is becoming increasingly unpopular and is largely falling into disuse. The second mode is called dual mode ventilation. This uses feedback from the patient's mechanics in order to adjust the pressure, volume, or flow. The most common manifestation is pressure regulated volume control, or PRVC, but goes by a variety of other names such as adaptive support ventilation and volume control plus. As a general rule, you can consider this mode of ventilation, which you will probably see fairly frequently, as simply trying to find the best of both worlds. The user will set the desired tidal volume and the rate, and then establish a pressure alarm limit instead of trying to set the pressure. Based on the pressure limit set, the ventilator then automatically adjusts the flow in order to try and deliver the tidal volume at the lowest possible pressure. Because the tidal volume is controlled, many people consider this a volume control mode of ventilation, but because of the inherent intelligence of the ventilator, it is actually more complicated and is now classified as a dual mode control.